I remember sitting in the doctor's office as he broke the news to me and breaking down in tears. Two nurses had to come and kind of hold me. A month later, I asked to be retested, and the virus showed up in my system higher than the first time that it did. Exactly 1 week after I received prayer, I walked back into that clinic and I had a big calmness with me. There was a huge presence with me. I felt a mighty, giant presence walking in with me. My name is Rachael Pascal, and this is my testimony. In 2015, I was diagnosed with an incurable sexually transmitted disease, the herpes virus. At the time the diagnosis came, it was at the end of a relationship with a guy who did not have a personal relationship with God. And during our relationship, I compromised a lot on my values and beliefs and the principles that God outlined for us in His Word, which included being intimate and giving yourself to someone outside of the sanctity of marriage that He had designed. When the relationship ended and I was diagnosed, I felt very alone and betrayed. I remember sitting in the doctor's office as he broke the news to me and breaking down in tears. Two nurses had to come and kind of hold me because it was so shocking to me. It felt like it destroyed my life. The shame and the guilt, wondering who would want me in their life now. How would I live with this? How could I have a family? It felt unreal. They assured me that many people have it and medication is there and I'll go on to have a normal life. But I couldn't accept that. It just had to be a dream. So a month later, I asked to be retested, and the virus showed up in my system higher than the first time that it did. So these two blood tests confirmed that I absolutely had it, and I was destined to live with it. At that point, I just accepted it for what it was, the fact that I went down a road that I knew was outside of God's will for my life, and I didn't hold on to it, and I didn't feel sorry for myself. I just knew I had it. And anytime I had to talk about it, I felt like it wasn't even me that I was talking about. So during that time, I just continued my relationship with God. I got back into church and I continued seeking God more. I was studying His Word and just spending my time in His presence and being surrounded by Him. I'll put on worship music when I go home and just read my Word and study. And then I began telling people about God, telling my friends and family about His love, talking about how He died for us to save us, how by His stripes we are healed, His healing is there, His forgiving power. And I would pray that He would give me anything that I could use to glorify His name. Then about a year later, I met someone in my life, and I realized I'm going to have to tell this person what I have. And I said, Lord, if He's meant to stay, then He will stay. And if He's not for me, this is His ticket to leave. I couldn't take any more heartbreak. So I told Him, and He accepted it, and He just listened. But having to share it with Him, I relived everything again that I went through by myself the year before. Doing all the research, all the hurts and shame came back, and everything was so fresh to me. It really bothered me, and it stayed with me again. So a week after that, I was in church at my home church, Trinidad Christian Center, for a Friday night service. And they made an altar call for healing. And it was at that point that I realized I never actually gave this thing over to God. I never laid it at God's feet and asked Him to take this away from me. Because these infirmities, they don't belong to us. They're not our burdens to bear. God died on the cross for us, and He took these things away. So I needed to give it back to Him. And when the altar call was made, I must have been the first one in front. I remember just apologizing to God. My prayer was brought back to me. God, give me anything, and let it be used for Your glory. And I had something, and I never did anything with it. So when the minister prayed with me that night, I remember just knowing and believing the power of God and knowing that it was finished. That following week, the following Monday, I went and I called the clinic, made an appointment, and the Tuesday I went to get retested. And the rest of the days for that week, I was just thanking God, just remaining and believing that He healed me. And on Friday, exactly 1 week after I received prayer, I walked back into that clinic and I had a big calmness with me. There was a huge presence with me. I felt a mighty, giant presence walking in with me. And when I looked at the test results, it proved in writing the power of God that I serve. My test results were negative. What was incurable by doctors' medical standards, what they said that I was destined to live with for the rest of my life, was no match for Jesus Christ, Jehovah Rapha, the God that heals. I have 2 test results showing that I definitely have this. And after receiving prayer and believing in the power of God, my system is cleared from it. I stand cured today. I've never seen this thing in my system again. God healed and He delivered me. And the young man that I mentioned earlier, when I asked him why he stuck around, he said because he had his personal relationship with God. And he knew the power of prayer. And today we are married 7 years. So when I thought I would not have a family, when I thought I was destined to take this thing with me to the grave and bury my shame and guilt, God had other plans for me. And if He can do that for me, He can absolutely do that for you. Because He has not forgotten you. He knows what you are going through. And all we need to do is give it over to Him. This is the power of God that we serve. And this is my testimony.